In note 6, we're going to be looking at least common multiple and the greatest common factor. Now, the multiples of a number are the products of that number with natural numbers. We're going to be looking for the least common multiple of 2 or more of those natural numbers. The steps in finding the least common multiple is by this listing method is first list the first several multiples of each number. All we're looking for is the very first one they have in common. So looking for multiples that are common in both lists. We're going to be looking for the smallest number in the list that they have in common. This is the least common multiple. The greatest common factor is the largest number that is a factor of these two numbers, or however many numbers you're looking at. First, you list all of the factors of each number. And again, this is the greatest common factor by listing method. List all of the factors of each number and look for the factors common to both lists. Then you look for the largest number that is in common in both lists. This number is the greatest common factor. And again, it's always easier to show you what it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start by looking for the greatest common factor since it's listed first. To find the greatest common factor of 12 and 18, I'm going to start off by looking at the factors of 12 and 18. So if you need to, you can go off and do a factor tree. Not a factor tree, sorry. I just start from the number 1 and then look at every number up to 12 that divides into it evenly. So 1 divides into 12, 2 divides into 12 evenly, 3 divides into 12 evenly, 4, 5 doesn't, does it? 6 divides into 12 evenly, and 12. Then we'll do the same thing for 18. 1 is always going to be included. 2 divides into it evenly. The number 3, of course, because 3 times 6 is 18. 4, no. And you can always do division or multiplication off to the side to find these. The number 6, the number 9, and the number 18. To find the greatest common factor, what you do is you go through and you see what is the biggest number in that list that they both have in common. See, they have a 1 in common, a 2 in common, a 3 in common, a 6 in common. That is the largest number that they have in common. So the greatest common factor for 12 and 18 is 6. Now for the least common multiple, it's a little different. We're going to take 12 and 18 again, but this time you're going to look at what are the multiples of 18? What are the multiples of 12? And that means this. I'm going to take 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. And I'll do that off in the margin. And then if I start getting kind of big, I'm going to slow it down. And again, I'm going to write these out to the side. 12, 24, 36, and 48. I'm going to keep going if I need to. I'm going to do 18 the same way. 18 times 1 is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. Hold on. I have 36 here. That's what I need. 18, 36, and I could have kept going. And I always take it out like 3 or 4 numbers on the first one because this is what we're looking for. What is the least common multiple? The least common multiple is the smallest number that these two have in common. And so for us, it would be 36. Let's try that again. I'll try to be a little more graceful. Here are 16 and 24. And again, let's do the greatest common factor first. To find the greatest common factor, I need to list all of the factors of 16, starting with the number 1. 1 divides into 16 evenly, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Factors of 24. 1, 2, 3 divides into 24. 4 divides evenly into 24. The number 6, the number 8, the number 12, and the number 24. All of those divide evenly into 24. So when I'm looking for the greatest common factor of 16 and 24, I know it, let's see, greatest common factor. It's got to be the biggest number that they both have in common. And do you see it? It's 8. We're looking for the largest in that list. Now, for doing the least common multiple, I'm going to be looking at multiples of 16 and multiples of 24. So if you need to, get off to the side, and you're going to do 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3 is 48. And they start getting big really quick, so I'm going to slow that down. I'll add more if I need to, if I don't find one right away. 24. 24 times, and I can do them in the margin, but I'm not going to waste the video on that. You guys can do it on your own. 24 times 1 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. Hold on. We have a match. 24, 48. And we found it. The least common multiple for 16 and 24 is 48. Let's take a peek at this first stated problem. It says, Bill and Sue work at night. Bill has every 6th night off, and Sue has every 8th night off. If they are both off tonight, how many nights will it be before they are off again? So we're actually looking for a multiple here. So let's see, Bill works in 6s. And Sue is off every 8th day. So let's see, let's find their multiples. 6 times, it's a common multiple, so we're going to have to do 6 times 1. Let's see, use least common multiple. 6, 12, 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30, 6 times 6 is 36. I think that's big enough. Let's do it with the 8s. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. Hold on. I don't have to go any further, do I? They have 24 in common. So every 24 nights, they will be off together. That's kind of cool. Let's take a peek at least common multiple and greatest common factor by prime factoring. This is a different method. So we're going to do the least common multiple by prime factorization. Find the prime factorization of each number. Then you will, for each prime factor in step number 1, identify the greatest number of times that factor occurs. And again, it's easier once I show it to you. I just have to go through this process. The least common multiple is the product of the circled factors. And for the greatest common factor by prime factorization, and actually I like this method better, find the prime factorization of each number, compare each prime factorization, and identify common factors. The greatest common factor is the product of the common prime. That's a lot. That is a big mouthful. Let's get started. Find the greatest common factor and the least common multiple for 18 and 72. We saw the other method, and now we're looking at a method called prime factorization. You just need to know how to do one really well, okay? So here we go. We're going to start off by finding the prime factorization of 18 and 72. I wrote that all kinds of wrong, didn't I? 18 and 72. So I'm going to do the prime factorization. Two numbers that multiply out to be 18 are 2 and 9. 9 breaks down into 3 times 3. So the prime factorization for 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. It's the ends of these branches. Or I can write it as 2 times, well, I'm not going to write it that way yet. Okay, now for 72, 72 is the same thing as 8 times 9. 8 is 2 times 4, and 9 is 3 times 3. I know that these are prime and this is prime. 4 can go one more time. 2 times 2. So the prime factorization of 72 is 3 2s and 2 3s. All right. For the greatest common factor of 18 and 72, and make yourself some notes if you need to. For the greatest common factor, we just want to find out what is the most they have in common. What is the most that they have in common? And I'm going to mark this one up. For greatest common factor, they've got a 2 in common, and they've got this 3 in common, and they've got this 3 in common. So the greatest common factor would be 2 times 3 times 3, which would be 2 times 3 squared, or the number 18 when we multiply it out. For the least common multiple, and I'll do it right next to it. Let's write those out again so you can see them. 2 times 3 times 3. 72 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Okay, let me put these in little boxes so that you'll know that those are the numbers. And out to the side, we have the prime factorization. Now, you're going to look to see what are the numbers that appear. Well, I see 2 and I see 3s. You're going to go through and find what is the most number of 2s that occurred in 18 and 72. Well, 18 only had 1 2. 72 had 3 2s, so I'm going to put down 3 2s in my least common multiple. For the 3, this one had 2 and this one had 2. Okay, to be 2. If there were a 5, I would include it also. And again, write down how many times was the most that it occurred in either number. Now, when I multiply those back together again, that's going to give me 72. And that's the least common multiple for 18 and 72. And again, the greatest common factor was 18. I'll see you in the next video, and we'll use this prime factorization method again.